Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Sunday, August 10th, 2025. Today is day 674. I continue to be in the Middle East. Tonight's my last night in Amman, Jordan. And as I'm going to share the update from today, it's Sunday. I typically try to share a short reflection, spiritual reflection on Sundays. Just as I begin, may we be reminded daily, hourly, each and every minute of the plight of the people who are suffering so drastically in Gaza. Today, I communicated with a dear friend of mine, a family I know and love, and I said to them, I'm worried about you because of the news of the displacement in Gaza City. That's where they're located. They were displaced from Gaza City previously, moved to the south, and then moved back a few months ago. And I said, where will you go? I continue my daily prayers over each of you. Now, I'm remiss. Today is day 674. So as we're thinking about the people of Gaza, 674 days of some of the most catastrophic circumstances you can imagine. I saw a BBC documentary talking about the bombing of London and the bombing in the UK during World War II and how that lasted more than 50 days and how the people of London were so traumatized. Think about that times more than 10. That's the daily suffering of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. And so I sent this note today and I heard back almost immediately. And the response tonight I heard was this: I don't have an answer to your question. I don't even want to think about it. Still, it takes away any rest or sleep from each one of us here. The challenge of starvation is much stronger. When combining starvation with fear, the worst formula of torture is prepared. This is what Israel is doing to us. In fact, Dr. May, I don't think that prayers help or that they are needed. Maybe death is the only prayer. Might that desperate plea from the Gaza Strip motivate us in our efforts as we continue to call for an end to the bombing, now the escalation and occupation of the Gaza Strip that's planned by the Israeli Security Cabinet and was appointed on Friday. That idea that may death be the only prayer is such a sign of desperation and such a plea of the reality of the circumstances in Gaza that there are no words. I had prepared a devotion today based on some of the meetings that I've been having here in Amman. And it's a stark reminder that even for those involved in advocacy, right? Plenty of food, water. I'm comfortably going from meeting to meeting, and just might that desperate plea motivate us in our efforts as we continue. Today, I had meetings with the royal family, or a member of the royal family here in Amman. I'm about 300 miles away from the Gaza Strip. One of the people that I met with today was His Royal Highness Prince Hassan bin Talal. Prince Hassan, if you're not familiar with his work, I'd encourage you to look him up. He's incredibly prolific. He's done incredible work over the course of his life. And his efforts are aimed towards the common humanity of all people, particularly in the Middle East, but around the world. And he and Jordanians have been a loud voice seeking justice for Palestinians. You might be aware that a significant percentage of the population here, many people say 60+%, are actually Palestinian by origin. And since it's Sunday, I wanted to reflect a bit on some of the things I talked about with Prince Hassan and how the scriptures intersect and how they relate. He's Muslim, but many of the ideas he espouses are also core tenets of Christian theology. And so our faith tradition intersects. His Royal Highness Prince Hassan bin Talal advocates for interfaith engagement and cooperation as a mechanism for achieving peace and understanding. And this is what's so significant. He emphasizes the importance of nurturing religious values so that values of love and fraternity, brotherhood, tolerance towards education, open communication, pluralism are ideas that are esteemed, while ideas of extremism and misinterpretations of religious text that are used to incite conflict are condemned. And, that might sound insignificant. And I'm not saying that, we should just sit down at the table and have religious dialogue as people are literally starving. But I do think that crossing divides is going to be the only way that gets us out of this catastrophe. And if you've been listening to all or some of my daily videos, action is certainly what is most needed. And so please don't misinterpret the things I'm talking about today, because we have to act. We have to raise our voices to speak to the reality and respond to the fact that there are more than 2 million people in Gaza who are going without water, without food, without adequate humanitarian assistance, without the needed support of a health system and aid. And all the while, they are continuing to be bombed and attacked in what's an excuse of the Israel-Hamas war. And the people of Gaza, are the byproduct, who are suffering the most devastating of consequences. So what does a constructive pluralistic society have to do with all of that? Well, part of the fundamental reality is in a pluralistic society, one people group is not privileged over the other, and that the common humanity of all is esteemed, that there is no dehumanization of any one people group over another. And that's some of the things that I talk about with Princess San, about what does it mean to have a society that is tolerant of people who are different in terms of religion. I think about Palestinian citizens of the state of Israel. I think about how Jerusalem historically has been a pluralistic city of the 3 Abrahamic faiths, where Jews, Christians, and Muslims in large part have lived in peace side by side for centuries. This conflict is a contemporary geopolitical nightmare, but it's contemporary. It has not gone on for thousands of years. And if you want me to talk about why that is the case, I'm happy to do so in a future update. But I think about the verses in Matthew chapter 22 that talk about mutual love and respect as a principal directive of the Christian scriptures. Jesus, hearing that he had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together, and one of them was an expert of the law, and they decided to test Christ with this question: "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment of the law?" And Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. This is the first and greatest. And the second is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. And all of the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments." How are we doing at loving our neighbor? And in Luke chapter 10, we hear that same story. And we're told on one occasion, an expert of the law stood up and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And the answer is given: love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength, with all of your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said, "You have replied correctly. Do this and you will live." But the man wanted to justify himself. And so he said, "But who is my neighbor?" And when he was asked that question, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down to Jerusalem from Jericho, and he was attacked by robbers. And they stripped him of his clothes, and they beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead." Friends, the people of Gaza are half dead. They are suffering of starvation and hunger and bombs made by the country where I vote, made by the United States of America and other Western nations, and we are leaving our neighbor as half dead. And Jesus went on to tell the story of the Good Samaritan and the relationship between the Jews and the Samaritans at that time. Lest we don't have the context, it was tense. It was marked by mutual hostility. Jews viewed Samaritans as heretics, and they would avoid any interaction with them, social or religious. The animosity was so intense that Jews often traveled around the region of Samaria, Mount Gerizim. They would travel around it to avoid passing through the territory. And tensions arose because of religious disputes between Samaritans and Jews and cultural differences. The Samaritans were less than. There were competing claims to the rightful temple and to sacred sites, and these tensions are reflected in the New Testament, of course, in the story in Luke chapter 10, the parable of the Good Samaritan. And at the end of the story, Jesus said, there was the man who passed by, but then there was finally the man who responded to the needs of the man who had been beaten. And Jesus said, which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? And the expert of the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, go and do likewise. Friends, may we have mercy on the people of God. Go and do likewise. Don't shoot them while they're coming for food. Give them food. Don't deny them access to water that is the source of life. Give them clean water. Thus, we are called to love our neighbors, which even includes those who are the most different from us politically, religiously, ideologically. How might our world change? How might the current realities here in the Middle East change if we would stop and set aside our own needs to be attentive to that who is beaten on the side of the road? I had some other things that I was going to say about Jesus's message of overcoming the law with love, loving God and loving one's neighbor as being central to our faith. But Jesus goes far beyond that of loving our neighbor. I'd encourage you to read the passage in Luke chapter 6 that tells this story over and over and over, because this is what he says. Love your enemies, not only your neighbor. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. This kind of love is something that we are so far from in the world today. If someone slaps you on the cheek, turn and give the other. If one takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks. If anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do unto you. If you love those who love you, what credit is it to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting anything back, and then your reward will be great, and you will be called children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father in heaven is merciful. Jesus teaches us to love our enemies, to do good to those who hate, promoting mercy rather than retaliation or extremism. We're warned against judging others hypocritically and condemning self-righteous attitudes that lead to extremism. You've heard the passage about taking the plank out of your own eye before identifying that which is wrong with others. Matthew chapter 7 speaks of that. And Paul teaches similarly, emphasizing love and warning against pride and revenge and arrogance. I'll close with a passage from Romans chapter 12, which has been a bit of my mantra and theme over the last 2 years. I think of this as an anthem of sorts as we seek to respond to the horrors of these days. Romans chapter 12, verse 9, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. All of humanity created in God's image are the Lord's people. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to be associated with the people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. It is possible as far as it depends on you. Live at peace, if it's possible, with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. But on the contrary, and listen to these words the way Romans chapter 12 ends. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, she will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. The message of the gospel is so counter to that which we are experiencing in the world today. As followers of Christ, may we overcome evil with good. Might God give us the strength to do so, to recognize the Imago Dei, the humanity in all people, be they Jewish, Palestinian, Israeli, Americans, or Arabs, be they from the West or from the East, that all of humanity is made in the image of God. And so God created mankind in his own image, we're told in the first chapter of Genesis. In the image of God, Imago Dei, he created them. Male and female, he created them. And thus we have a shared humanity, that we are all children of the creator of the universe. During my drive home today, my driver, Mohammed, was talking to me and lamenting the loss of economy and some of the realities of life here in Amman as the war is approaching, 2 years. And he was talking about how it's difficult here and it doesn't compare to the devastation in Gaza. But he said this in his somewhat broken English. He said, I love all people. I love them. I love the Jewish. I love the Muslim. I love the atheist. Because all people are made from God. They're not made by me. And he laughed. He said, I didn't make them. God made them. How can I not love them? It might sound like a simple perspective, and yet he was speaking the truth of the gospel. Might we love the people of Gaza? Might we love all of creation? Inshallah. As God wills it, may it be so. And let us be reminded of Jesus' words in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the peacemakers, those who advocate to foster understanding and peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, for theirs will be the kingdom of heaven. Might we be obedient in that call. In the name of Christ. Amen.